Today you're going to make an exploded view of the chopper assembly that you did last week. In order to do that, we're going to go up, click Open, navigate to the directory that contains your chopper, and then go ahead and open the assembly. So your chopper assembly will be open. You can rotate it around a little bit, refamiliarize yourself with the model. And then we're going to create an exploded view. To do this, we're going to go up to Insert, Exploded View, and then we're going to select the parts we want to explode. The first part I'm going to pull off of the helicopter is the tail. So I'm going to click on the tail, and you'll see this triad open up, and I'm going to drag that back off the helicopter. So I've moved that back. I'll go up here, check OK. If I want to keep adding exploded steps, I'd go back to Insert, Exploded View. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the whole rotor servo assembly out of the center of the helicopter. So I'm going to select each component, and they'll all highlight. And then those I'm going to drag straight up. Once it turns purple, it'll move on to the next explode step. So now I want to pull this motor off the side. So now that one's selected, and I can bring it off to the right. And if I click on this one, I'll drag that one off to the left. If I want to change direction of the triad, I can pick the part, and then over here at the left, this indicates that I'm going in the Z direction. If I click on that, I can select a plane, and it'll move one of the parts of the triad to line up with that plane. So that'll let me bring this motor off forward. Now if you notice, I forgot to add that link to it. I want to bring that link with it. So if I go up here and go Edit Step, and then select this part and click Apply, I can move both of them forward. So if you forget a part, it's no big deal. That actually happens a lot. You'll move something and an internal washer or bearing will stay in place because you didn't select it, because you couldn't see it in a part with, or assembly with hundreds of parts. So the next one I'm going to bring up, I'm going to pull apart the rotor assembly. So I'm going to grab the top rotor, and actually I'm still editing, so I'm going to delete that, click Apply, and then check OK. And I'll go back in and bring the rotor assembly up. I'll bring the whole thing up. It's generally better to pick any part that you're going in the direction. Each time you move, pick the parts that you want to continue moving. And then I'm just going to grab the top blade and pull that one up a little bit further. So now I've got one last thing that I want to do. I want to remove, I'm going to bring that link off over to the side and check OK one last time. And there's my exploded view. So these are very useful for parts diagrams and for explaining how your assembly goes together. You've probably seen diagrams like this with assembly instructions for toys or machine components that you've worked on. Now, once we have it exploded, the other thing that we would want to do potentially is bring it back together. So we can go up and right-click on the main assembly in the feature tree and select the collapse. And that'll bring it back down together. If you want to explode it, you can go up there and go down to explode, and that'll show the exploded state. Another thing that happened to me in industry is one time I actually got somebody who was working with an assembly and didn't know how to convert it, and they actually sent an entire portion of an engine assembly in its exploded view state. So I had to go in to the model and put it all back together. Okay, the other thing that's up here is a nifty tool called Animate Collapse. So if we select Animate Collapse, it brings all of those steps in together. And if you notice, you have an animation controller up here. You can have it reciprocate, so it'll take it apart and put it together. Now it may cause errors. These happen when the graphics card gets overloaded. So the first one worked okay with that. And if I stop it, move it around a little bit, that brings those back. The other thing that we can do is we can save that animation. So we can save this as an AVI file, and SolidWorks will you don't need to mess with these settings at all, but SolidWorks gives you these options. You can click OK, and that creates an AVI in your directory. So hopefully that will play on our machines in the lab, but that basically generates that for the component. So if you add more components, you can continue to explode them. You can also go back in. If you close out of the animation controller, you can go into Insert Exploded View. And over here, you can just add as many steps as you want if you wanted to further disassemble your part. So your first sheet for Lab 11 will have a single exploded view on the sheet of the helicopter.